Hi, and welcome to the Day One podcast. My name is Simon Moran, and the essence of what the Day One podcast is essentially where I meet with top entrepreneurs in the Valley of Arizona and just interview them on their day one, take them back to when they first started and bring them full through their journey and their experience of, how they got to where they are today, and kind of lend some advice as well as talk about some of their current activities that they're doing. So today I'm interviewing JT Bell from Bell and Associates, and I'll let JT kind of introduce himself, who he is, what he does, and we'll get into it. JT?
All right, I'm one of the partners and owners at Bell and Associates. We're a tax planning, insurance, investment, kind of financial world, and we represent a bunch of different advisors and producers across the country.
Okay, so kind of taking you back there, where did you grow up originally?
One of the few born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm a native.
Yeah, I myself am also a native to Phoenix. We've kind of connected as well on the level that I went to Brophy College Preparatory in downtown Phoenix, and JT also went there. I have some legacy that my family, my father and all my uncles went there, and as well as my aunt went to Xavier. So we have a couple connections growing up in kind of the same town. It's funny how Phoenix, it's grown so much since, when my dad, grew up here in the 80s, but it still has that small town feel. But it's really grown, and it acts in some ways the old way with the connections. You run into all kinds of people that you know all the time, but it also is welcoming a lot of new people into the valley. Have you seen an uptick in business because of that, or do you try to attract new business from outside individuals coming in town?
Yeah, we like to kind of pride ourselves on our local presence. I mean, being in the valley, based in the valley 40 years now, with maintaining a good reputation is probably one of my biggest senses of pride. And we really like to focus on the Southwest region, Arizona in particular, but we do operate nationwide and get business from all across the country.
And how did you find yourself getting into the insurance business originally?
Yeah, for being what I consider young at heart anyway, 38 years old, it goes back 21 years. I got my insurance license when I was about 17. I don't even think I could legally get into an R-rated movie, but let's just say my father has always been a tax planner, and I happen to be a very large producer at a very young age. And you can read between the lines on that.
Sure. Yeah, it was kind of a prepared question on my end there, but how does that family dynamic kind of play into how you run a business today? Obviously, a lot of our potential listeners may or may not be thinking about going into business with their family, and sometimes it's a good track record, sometimes it's it doesn't always work out. So how do you kind of scoot around some of the situations that you walk into running a business with the family?
Well, one thing, just kind of taking it back to how I got into the business and why I wanted to, it was ever since I was a kid. I think my dad was one of the first people to ever have a car phone, and yes, it was a car phone back then. And he would be working deals, talking to agents, doing all that, and we were riding to Mexico or Flagstaff in the back seat, and I was the annoying kid that sometimes during the call, I couldn't even wait till afterwards, asking him a million questions. Why did you say this? Why did he say that? And really got osmosis learning from the business, and that was pretty cool. And then going on all the trips, my dad's super successful, always a top salesman in the country, and got to go on some pretty amazing trips with some of these top carriers, and I was sold at a young age.
So how did, kind of taking back, whether it was in high school or college, or obviously as a kid, you were presented with, visually being able to see and also participate in what your father did. How did that transition take place from going from high school to college to kind of coming into the business? Where did you start and where did you end up?
Yeah, so in high school, I mentioned I got my insurance license. then basically went to college, and then would come back and intern in Phoenix. I was going to school in San Diego, and would literally sell term insurance over the phone and the fax machine. So again, I think I'm young at heart, but I was doing business via fax and over the phone. And us insurance guys get kind of a bad rap. I think used car salesmen are above us in the pecking order. So selling term insurance over the phone when I was basically a freshman in college was an interesting start to the industry. And I purposely went to not my dad's agency, but one of our kind of downline advisors to kind of cut my teeth and learn from someone other than my dad, who's
Sure.
not a great teacher, but a good teacher at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay, so kind of being born and bred into this, successful environment. You saw your father, have success, and obviously you wanted to follow in the footsteps and kind of achieve to some of those levels. In considering that, how do you structure your goals and how do you plan for the future as far as your, farsight on what it is you want to accomplish with business?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of unique for running an agency like ours. I and my partners are all under 40, and that's very unique. Our demographic, our industry is that normal age or average age of an owner is probably in the mid 60s and often older than that. But the reason I mention that is we have a longer runway than most, and so that shapes kind of our goals and our trajectory. And we're trying to focus on younger demographic and some of the cutting edge technology and software platforms and that sort of thing to keep up with the changing times.
Sure. And considering the fact that, a lot of millennials are, starting jobs and they're kind of getting into that, point where they're having kids or they're getting married and they're going to have to consider, what their financial future is going to look like and, potentially what retirement's going to look like for them and how to structure, a plan like that the best. Considering the fact that you work in, the insurance industry and deal with, some of these issues, what advice would you give a millennial on, how they should potentially structure their retirement?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but starting early is an important part of it. And then also sticking with a plan, meaning there's all sorts of things that are going to catch your eyes monetarily, but having some money that's off limits to yourself is a huge bit of advice. And some of our products kind of force you into being long-sighted in your goals rather than short-sighted.
So kind of looking back, part of the structure of this podcast is really to delve into the entrepreneur aspect of business and approaching things and exploring kind of the ups and downs in business and how you should approach different situations. What's an example of maybe a large success and maybe a lower downfall that you've gone through that have really shaped you and taught you a lesson on how you run business nowadays?
Let's see. A bit of success, excuse me, is taking a leap of faith with some of our top advisors and doing a recruiting event up in northern Arizona, where we really started off just bringing a couple guys up to kind of have fun and show them a good time, and it really morphed into a huge part of our business. So that has turned out to be a huge success and part of our business plan. And let's see, a failure or challenge. A lot of our sales kind of rainmakers that we've tried to bring on have not done great, to put it lightly. So that's just been a challenge for us, is finding someone that's driven, that has a good background, a good education, and holds himself well and able to kind of put numbers on the board, so to speak.
Sure. And just to also give you some context, I know we're in a slightly different setting, and we have some tools and guns laying around. And he had mentioned kind of that up north location. That's actually where we're currently at. JT's partner Charles is, has a property up here that they bring, individuals, successful individuals within their company, and kind of, have some time to decompress and work through a couple different things and show them some new ways to approach business. How do you think that is beneficial to those guys, bringing them up here, letting them forget about kind of all the static that occurs, down in the valley, and really let go and recalibrate in some ways?
Yeah, we purposely tried to take the opposite of the cliche approach. Guys in our industry spend so much time under fluorescent lights and in big conference room at hotels and stuff, and it's tough to concentrate. Most of the time guys are checking their phones and doing other stuff, and we focused on small groups, being in an outdoor setting, and it's a whole different mindset, and people are more engaged, and that's half the battle. So one of our strengths and our core identity is our sales ideas. There's no better venue to go over these sales ideas when we kind of have a captive audience and their full attention.
Well, JT, I appreciate your time today. Just in closing out, what is a way that people can reach out to you, and what's something that you can provide individuals with that you currently have going on, or that you're promoting, or how would you like to connect with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we recently redid our website that we're pretty proud of. Really captures the essence of who we are. It's consultbell.com, and we work with a bunch of different financial advisors that wear different hats: CPAs, attorneys, wealth managers, insurance people, and that's who we kind of serve, and that's our customer base, and we're proud of what we do and help them be more successful and help their downline clients in creative ways.
Yeah, I was introduced to Bell and Associates through my father, who's been in the business for many years, and all the experiences that I've had with them have been great. I've learned a lot. I'm young, I'm 22, I have a lot to learn, but they've been very supportive of me and in my endeavors, and this being one of them, and I appreciate that. And that's our first episode of the Day One podcast. Thanks for listening. More to come.